So if your barbershop is slow, then this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to go over tactics on how you can increase the overall busyness of the shop and ultimately make more money. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Alex Jaramillo. I own House of Shaves Barbershop. We've done millions of dollars in revenue, and I make these videos because these are the kind of things I wish I had when I was first getting started. So let's get into it. So the first thing we need to do is define what is slow. In our barbershop, we call this number productivity, but we can define it here together. What you guys might call slow, we call productivity. We may also refer to it as utilization. That's what our system calls it. That's what my coaches called it. This is what everybody else calls it. So what does this mean? Well, it's actually pretty simple. So this just basically means how much time do we have available, how much is booked, I'm just going to put how much booked, versus how much is available. You might have heard me say this before, but remember, in a service-based business like a barbershop or salon or any service-based business, we sell time. So when you have an appointment that's booked, you have sold a little bit of your time. So it's going to be based on how busy you are is going to be based on how much is booked versus how much is available. And it's usually, we use this as a percentage. So what does this look like? So if you have 10 hours available, they're working a 10-hour day, let's say it's just you, but if you have a team, this applies for the team, you would just make the numbers bigger. If you have 10 hours available and you were booked for 9 of those hours, then 9 divided by 10 would mean that you are 90% booked. And that's pretty good. And since we're on that subject, what I would consider busy is if you are 80 to 85% booked, I would consider that pretty busy. If you're less than that, then it's time to start thinking about some of these tactics that we're going to go over in the video. But the first thing you need to do is figure out, well, how busy are you? And not just on one day, over the week, over the month, over even the year. First, figure out where you're at now, and then we can start to figure out some tactics on how we can improve. Now, if you're here, then in my opinion, you're pretty good. You still have some room to grow, but this is really busy. It starts to get stressful for the barbers once you get beyond this point right here. That's when you have to start thinking about hiring somebody, so which is going to be adding more hours there. But let's just talk about what to do if you are less than 80% booked. So remember that we're only working with 2 variables here, which is how many hours are booked versus how much is available. So there's only 2 things you can do to influence the productivity or the utilization or whatever you want to call it for your barbershop. And this is for if you're independent, if you have a barbershop, or if you're just by yourself or booth rent, whatever, or even if you work for somebody else, you can still use this same thing to boost your own schedule. So since there's only 2 variables, which I've broken down here, there's only 2 strategies. Now there's some tactics on how to do those things, but there's only 2 things you can do that I know of to affect your productivity. So if you are slow, which is, I would say, if you're less than 70% booked, I would consider that slow. And this is when barbers are unhappy. If they're less than 70% booked on a regular basis, every single day that they work, I would say that they're going to start to get unhappy and maybe start updating their resumes. But as a business owner, if you own a business, this is not a good place to be either, because this is driving up your payroll costs. Because if you've priced your services right, if you watch that video that I made, then should be the minimum that you should shoot for based on your pricing. So if you're less than this, that means you could be losing money. So, and if you're up here, you actually start to get more profitable. So we never want to dip below this. This is like the red line. You never want to go below 70% booked. If you're there now or less, then the rest of this video is going to be helping you out, hopefully. So if this is the problem, let's say we're 70% booked, then there's only 2 things you can do. You can either increase the number of hours booked, or you can decrease the number of hours available. And there's a few ways to do that for each. So we're going to start with this one. So when it comes to how do we increase the number of hours booked, I'm going to list every tactic that I know of. So the first thing, which a lot of us go to, is marketing. We tend to go to marketing first because when we're trying to fill up our schedule and sell more of the hours that we have available, a lot of us barbershop owners and barbers tend to think of, well, I need more clients. And you're not wrong in thinking that. So one of the ways that you can increase the number of hours booked is by getting more clients in the door. There's different types of marketing. So bringing in new clients is just one type, but you can also market to existing clients. So these are clients that are coming to you on a regular basis, but marketing to them in the form of maybe an email blast, text message, phone call, handwritten card, whatever, to get your existing clients to come in more frequently. You can also reach out to what I call lapsed clients. These are clients that you might have lost. Maybe you haven't seen them in a while. So reaching out to them to see if you can get them to come back and give you another shot. In my opinion, these two are going to be way easier than trying to get new clients in the door. But that's just one way that you can increase the number of hours booked. Let's talk about another way, which we're going to call upsells. So I don't know about you guys, but this is a habit that I've been trying to break. But just because somebody just books a haircut with you does not necessarily mean that that's all they need. So if somebody sits in your chair and they just had booked a haircut and you're less than 70% booked, you got nothing going on after this person, see what else they need. Do they need a beard trim? And I'll put some examples, but I don't want to limit your imagination on this, but I'll just put some examples of some easy upsells that you can do to sell more of your time. So beard trims, shaves, you can do some waxing, shampoo, and I mean, you can just go on and on and on. But basically the idea is if you can't get more people on the schedule, then I would turn my focus to how do we get the clients that are coming in to spend more. So this is just a few ways that you can do that. A lot of barbers have an issue with this and also with retail. And remember that we're not skimming money from their credit card. If they don't want it, they'll say no, right? But you'd be surprised how many people, it doesn't matter how fancy your price menu is or how good you think your website is, you'd be surprised how many of your clients don't even know all of the things that you offer. And simply by dropping the hint during a service, you could even offer maybe a little bit of a discount. But if you're not fully booked, I would be focusing on these two things to get more of your hours sold. Another thing I just thought about, but you can use your existing clients to get you more clients, so referrals, because chances are everybody knows at least somebody else that may be interested in trying out a new barber. So it doesn't always have to be paid. It doesn't always have to be paid. You can do this on social media for free. You can market to your existing clients for free. You can run paid ads if you want, spend money. We do that, but you don't have to. Money is an issue, then start with what you got. But one of the most effective ways, in my opinion, to get new clients is to use your existing clients. And you can offer them an incentive. A lot of people will just do it for free, but almost nobody will do it if you don't ask them. So marketing and upsells are two of the best ways that I know of to sell more hours. Let's say you try this and you're not having a lot of success with this and you're still less than 70% booked. Well, now you got to turn your attention to here. And I'm going to show you some ways that you can decrease the number of hours available. And we're going to try to go in order of severity here. So if you're less than 70% booked, then that essentially means you have too many hours available relative to the amount of clients coming in. This is a big problem, like I mentioned earlier. The idea is all of these tactics that I will mention are going to be involved by decreasing the hours available, which is going to artificially increase your productivity. So, because if you, for example, this is one of the tactics, but you can shorten the hours. So if you're less than 70% booked, right? And so if you took this from 10 hours to 9 hours, that would automatically raise you to 100% booked if you were 90% booked. You wouldn't do this if you were 90% booked, but just for this example. So if you're less than 70% booked and you shorten the hours, let's say you just went from like 9 to 7 to like 10 to 7, you could automatically almost get a pretty significant bump in your productivity by just shortening the hours. And you can do this for business, and you can also do this for the individual. And this is where I fully expect to get some hate comments about this video, but the reality is we have to take care of the business first. Because the business, if we don't take care of the business, it will not take care of us. And I'm not saying you should jump straight to this, but this is a tactic that you can use, just one of them. So if your shop is slow meaning 70% or less booked, then one of the tactics you can use to artificially raise up the productivity is shorten the hours, because there's less hours, same amount of clients coming in, but less hours to service them. So that's automatically going to boost your productivity and increase your profit margin. Another way you can do this is by not shortening the hours, but maybe closing a day. So looking at your system, hopefully you're using a POS system of some sort, and you can look at the trends. So I would base this decision off of facts and data. So what are the hours that are the least busy? Are you more busy in the morning or the evening? You could even close in the middle of the day, do like a sabbatical. But there's a lot of ways you can get creative around shortening the hours. But you don't have to even touch the hours. What you could do is just close one day. And then you can take those barbers that were working on that day and just push their hours to a different day. That way nobody gets their schedules, their hours cut, and everything stays the same, other than the fact that you're closed one day, and those clients that were coming in on that day will hopefully go to a different day, and it will boost your overall productivity by doing that as well. But another tactic we can use to decrease the amount of hours available is to change schedules. So you can actually change the schedules of the barbers in order to not decrease the amount of hours available, but you can spread them out. So if you're not tracking productivity, I highly recommend you do that, because otherwise you're just guessing when you're making these decisions, and guessing almost always has gotten me into trouble in the past. That's why I'm so big on data and facts now. But I think you should be tracking your productivity, and the way we do it is that we actually track it by the day. So we actually know which days are the busiest, which makes it really easy when making scheduling decisions. So if we hire a new barber, for example, and we're trying to figure out that barber schedule, typically what we're going to do is we're going to look at the days where our productivity is the highest, and that's the barber schedule. Pretty simple. But if you're looking to increase productivity because it's slow, then you do the opposite. You look at which days are the slowest, and then you take barbers off that day and you move them to a day where the productivity is higher. So just by changing schedules, not even really reducing the amount of hours available, you can increase productivity. If you know that Tuesdays are always slow, for example, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are typically our slowest days, and you know that Friday and Saturday is a really busy day, then you can take somebody who normally wouldn't work on Friday or Saturday or Sunday and take them off Tuesday and Wednesday and move them to your busy day. So you basically are just reallocating resources. You're taking them from a slow day and moving them to a busy day. You didn't change the amount of hours available, but you put them where they're in higher need, which is definitely going to help in boosting this number. And the last tactic that we're going to cover today, this is the one that I expect is going to get me a lot of hate. But if you've tried everything, and this would absolutely be the last resort for me as well. If you've tried everything and you cannot get this number above 70% or higher, ideally you want to be here, remember, and nothing has really moved the needle enough to get you. Ultimately, this means if you're less than 70% booked, it ultimately means you're overstaffed. So unfortunately, businesses have to make these kinds of decisions. In the corporate world, it's called layoffs. But if you are bleeding money and you cannot get this productivity up and you've tried everything else, then this will be the last thing I would go to, which is to cut staff, right? You could take I would use what's called the top grading approach, and I would take a pay cut before I did this too. But let's say you did that too, it's still not helping. But you would take basically the bottom performers of the team and you basically let them go, right? And it sucks. I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but it's not literally now a decision between saving the business and keeping that person, right? In this case, it's a person that's a bottom performer. So are you going to keep that person who's not even that great and risk losing the business, or are you going to have that tough conversation? A lot of people would let their business go out of business rather than do this. And get it, but at the same time, this is one of the last resorts, and it's going to be one of the more effective ways, because you just, let's say, took hundreds of hours off the schedule for that month, and those clients will now just start going to other barbers. So it will boost your productivity, it will boost your profit margin, and again, I would save that for the last resort. Try all of these other things first. There's probably other things on here that I forgot to mention, but if your barbershop is slow, just remember the main thing. You can either sell more hours, which is, I think, a little bit harder, or you can focus on this side of the equation, which is to decrease or spread out the amount of hours that's available. These are just some of the tactics that we've used. I haven't done this, to be honest, but I would if it got to that point. But we found that doing these other things really can help prevent this. So if your barbershop is slow, try these tactics. It will boost your productivity, it will boost your profit margin, and hopefully you won't have to make these tough decisions here at the bottom, but that's how we boost our shop if it's slow. If you want more help, you can join my community. It's full of other barbers and hairstylists that are passionate about making more money and growing their business. I'll put the link to that community in the description below. I hope to see you there.